What's up, man? I want to talk about the Clemson Alabama game. I seen a lot of the game. After Clemson started taking control of the game, I started really watching the game. But Clemson, they dominated the score. Definitely dominated the score. They dominated the game, but it was much like the Clemson Notre Dame game, where the score really didn't dictate, you know, total domination of the game. Now Clemson is a great football team. They're the first football college football team that went 15-0. So they were clearly the best team, this year in college football. I just thought this game turned on a couple of explosive plays, much like what Coach Saban said. The Alabama coach said that it was a couple explosive plays, and that's what I seen in the game. Clemson was making some spectacular plays and drives. The Lawrence kid, the true freshman from Clemson, pretty good quarterback, made some great throws. He could have had a couple. He could have had picked off, but didn't get picked off. He threw for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. And on the other hand, the Alabama coach, the Alabama quarterback, he threw, two interceptions, and that was a difference. That was largely the difference in the game. He actually had a pretty good game, but yeah, he did throw those two costly interceptions. Alabama didn't rush the ball that well. They really didn't rush the ball that well. I know they had Harris had 59. Another Harris had 57. Jacobs had 47. Jones had -2. Hurts had -4. So Clemson made Alabama really one dimensional. Alabama really want to run the ball. Alabama want their way of Coach Saban way. He always had these running backs that come out of nowhere and just in a national championship game they just run all over people. You know what I'm saying? He'd be having his first, second, and third string just running all over people, and it didn't happen in this game. Clemson turned him one dimensional. I believe Clemson has caught up to Alabama somewhat, but I still think Alabama is still ahead of everyone, including Clemson, even though Clemson beat them, because of the fact that Alabama can go three deep in most positions still. You know what I'm saying? Now Clemson, they are getting some of the Alabama players, some of the players that Alabama are going after, but largely because Alabama has such a stacked roster that a lot of kids don't want to go there because they want to start right away. Much like that wide receiver that was killing Alabama. He was gonna go to Alabama, but then he picked Clemson. It came between down to Alabama or Clemson. He picked Clemson because he felt like he can go right in there and start right away. Now that's how Saban will lose. Start losing some of these kids because some of these kids are only gonna as teams catch up with Alabama. Some of these kids will say, well, Alabama, they like three deep. I may not start to my sophomore, junior year. You know what I'm saying? I might as well go to another team and become an impact player right away. So you can get that. They say Alabama has lost a lot of coaches over the years, like 13 coaches in like 4 or 5 years. That's a lot of turnover. For Alabama to still have the success that they having and they have all that turnover in coaches, I know a lot of people are like, well, coaches come and go. Yeah, but coaches bring stability. You know what I'm saying? If you have your coaching staff in place, largely in place for a while, you can have more stability. Y'all can be on the same page. You don't have to get to learn another. Coach Saban do not have to get to learn these coaches or what they like to do, their personalities. He already knows the personalities of the coaches, and and then offensive coordinators. Alabama always go through offensive coordinators. They go through offensive coordinators like it's water. It seems like every year Alabama is getting a new offensive coordinator. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing too. Now you got to change your offense largely based on the offensive coordinator that's coming in and based off his personality and how he wants to do things. So that can play a picture. Hey, look, I'm not making an excuse for Alabama. I'm just saying coaches in place in your football system, largely in the football system because there's so many players, makes a big difference. makes a huge difference. Now, do I think Alabama will be back next year? Yes. I believe Alabama and Clemson probably will be back next year doing it again. Now, I seen a segment on Speak for Yourself, and they were talking about Joe Clapp. Clapp was on there, and they were talking about have the playoffs diminish college football. I believe. See, I'm 42 years old, so when I was largely looking at college football, which I really don't look at college football a whole lot like I used to. I used to be a college football and college basketball nut, but over the years, I have largely went away from looking at both sports. In college basketball, largely because guys don't stay in college that long, and it's hard to keep up with these guys, and it diminishes the game because you don't. A lot of the really good players they leave early, so the competitiveness is not like it used to be when back in the day Vince Carter, Jerry Stackhouse, Tim Duncan. People don't know Tim Duncan stayed. I think Tim Duncan stayed all 4 years. And countless of other players I seen in college basketball, tremendous players, and the game was it was just better. In college football, it was all about the bowls, like the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and all of that stuff. Right now is largely diminished because of the playoffs. Now, a lot of people say, well, I know Joe Clapp, he did make a good argument saying, well, you want to see the best team because I remember, yeah, back in the day, Nebraska, I believe Nebraska and Michigan had to share the national title. A couple other people had to share the national title, and then you will get some scenarios to where a team is 12-0, another team is 11-0, and they both win their bowls, and you be like, well, I would have loved to see them play each other to see who won. Yes, that is true, but I don't think college football needed a playoff because of the simple fact that people look like you could look at a certain team and say that's the best team in college football. You know what I'm saying? And then I know back then they were going by a point system. So the amount of points that you accumulated based on your strength of schedule, how you and one thing about college football is about blowing teams out. So you had to win. You had to have quote unquote. You had to win pretty. So you had to blow teams out. It was based on all that, and you accumulate amount of points, and then really we did know who was the best because of the points you accumulated based on how dominant your team was. Like if like let's just say Michigan was 11-0 and Nebraska was 11-0 or whatever they are, they both undefeated and they both going to their bowl games, and all year they kind of close. You know what I'm saying? They've been blowing out teams and all that stuff. But when they get in a bowl game, one blow out a team by 25 and one blow out a team by 10. We always gave it to the team that performed and blew out a team more. Winning was not enough, and you hear that in college football. Winning is not enough. You have to really really put the foot to the pedal on against guys. I remember looking at a game when I was younger, and I believe Penn State scored 92 points or some crazy number. There's always some crazy scores in college football. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing to see a college team score 70-something points. So I just think that playoffs have diminished the bowl games. The Rose Bowl used to be a big thing when I was coming up. The Orange Bowl used to be a big thing when I was coming up. The Sugar Bowl used to be a big thing when I was coming up. Those bowls were big when I was coming up. Now it's just, okay, the Rose Bowl on, okay. The Sugar Bowl on, okay. The Orange Bowl on, okay. It just didn't really matter. It really doesn't matter now. Now Joe Clapp, he's making an argument that college football is more popular now than it's ever been. It could be. It could be. He's seeing the numbers. I'm not seeing the numbers, but I thought college football was popular back when I was looking at football. And at one point, college football back in the day, even before I was looking at college football was number one over NFL. A generation before me, they would tell you that college football and is in the numbers. The imperial data shows that college football was over the NFL at one point. So, is it more? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But yeah, I believe Clemson and Alabama has a chance to come back next year and play each other. These are the top two programs, the top two one of the top two, three teams or in the top five getting recruits every year. So, we'll have to see. But I know they're making an argument if Lawrence should be able to go to the NFL. He can't go to the NFL until after his what? Sophomore year. I think he had to play his sophomore year. Then after that, he can declare for the NFL. They were making a case. Whitlock was saying, he don't want certain players shouldn't go because physically, see, football is different than basketball. Now, even though largely most high school kids cannot go to the NBA and play because of the physicality. Just think about kids coming from high school and wanting to go to the NFL. Maybe some can, you know what I'm saying? Maybe some physically are ready, but not a whole lot's gonna be ready. But like Joe Class said, in other sports, players can go straight to the pros and play whenever they ready. In tennis, I know you can play when you're 12. And you know what I'm saying? Other sports you can go. You can play baseball. You can get drafted in baseball when you're young. So I say just open it up and let kids just make their own choices. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, I know football is a high impact sport, especially professional football, going from high school to professional football, and I just have to believe that the kids will their right choice for them as far as saying are they ready physically to play to go from high school football to the NFL football. Because I have seen like Adrian Peterson, people like Maurice Claret, and then some other players that could have went probably to the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Definitely after their freshman year of football, college football, they could have went to the NFL.